Greetings, YouTube. Welcome back to the channel. This story hit this week. And it's my birthday week, you know? It's my birthday week. So I chose to wait until almost a week later to talk about it on this channel because, you see, I want to take this very seriously because for a long time, Quake was my favorite champion in the game. She was the only high-skill champ that I was good with. Not great, but good. I couldn't quake and shake like the best of them, but I could quake and shake better than the worst of them. I was proudly mid, as the kids would say. Without the proudly, I guess. But Quake has not been released as a 6-star, even though we now have plenty of rank 3 7-stars, and there are currently no plans to release her as a 6-star because, in part, we're going to take a look at this discussion. Rookie says, I can, across this comment. My guess is came across the comment was the original goal of this comment. For the record, this is what we had initially thought about for Quake. Concussion changed to physical vulnerability. Cannot evade if her personal physical vulnerability is not active on the opponent, which would essentially prevent Quake from being Quake in those moments. The goal was to take her from where she is now absolutely broken down to God tier. But like I said, we chose instead to go with no change and to leave them as 5 stars. Interesting. I couldn't disagree more with it, he says. In my opinion, it makes a lot more sense to adjust Nerf Quake such that she can be reintroduced into the game rather than phase her out. I just think that this is such a bad direction to take with any champion. But what do you agree? Would you rather see Quake adjusted and have her become relevant in today's meta, or do you agree with Kabam? Do you agree with Kabam Mike on Quake? Look at this, 51 to 48%, which is essentially a 50-50 poll with some percent of a margin of error introduced. Leave her as is and phase her out. Adjust Quake and reintroduce her. So, if the comment section of this video is any preview, we're not going to agree on this. But let's just see what other people have said. If Hercules is a champion that is not going to be nerfed, then there should be some way to reintroduce champs like Magic and Quake. But thing is, due to how OP Hercules is, if 6 stars weren't a thing at the time and highest was a 5, he would also be stuck as a 5-star. But he's stuck to being only a 6-star, and only I agree with moving Quake's abilities to be what they said, so it doesn't change her in much ways at all. Not to mention, Mike quite literally said she would be tuned down to ghost level. It's not like they would gut her completely, but everyone wants to act like, no, I'm OG, and nerfing her would be disrespectful, so highly doubt this will ever happen. Community is way too divided on the matter, so it's easier to just leave her as is and forget about her completely. So people actually want Quake to be nerfed, so she can be introduced as a 6-star. Now, if it's a nerf like Mole Man, who I still think is amazing, then I'm okay with it. If it's a nerf like Black Widow or OG Scarlet Witch, Thor, nah, not good. I don't want to see another nerf, period, Beast Dad says. I like Quake and Magic. I like to see them as 7 stars and above. Emilia90 says, honestly, don't get the stubbornness from some people who think it's better for them to just exist as dusty 5-star relics of the past. Dusty 5-star relics of the past. What? Shots fired. Alright, I'm not vehemently against the idea of reworking her in theory, Eckert says, but in practice, I think the dev resources are pretty much better spent on buffing bad champions than nerfing OP ones. Presumably the process is pretty much the same between the two. Tweak an old kit, then rigorously test to make sure they land where they are supposed to be. Putting all that effort into making some champions worse instead of others better just seems off. Not how I want Kabam to improve the game. As for the proposed change, I'm not really feeling it either. I think it fundamentally changes her kit. If I were to suggest a change, I'd keep the concussion, but only allow it to shut off abilities directly from the opponent's kit, while still leaving effects from nodes alone. Or possibly vice versa, depending on which alternative Kabam would deem to be more balanced. I think that would keep her more in line with how she is now, while still leaving Kabam plenty of room to counter her via a wider array of nodes or champion abilities. It's possible that this would still be too OP for the game, especially in the hands of very skilled players, but at least to me, I prefer something along those lines rather than changing the spirit of her kit entirely. All fair, good points. You'll see it's clobbering time chimed in. Some people like to act like they're special because they were cooking with Quake back in her golden days when nothing could stop her. I played Quake back then too, but I never understood that mindset of if they nerf her, they'd be ruining all these memories I have of the game. If anything, I'd love to be able to actually use her again. Sucks that half the player base is against it. So, it's 50-50. It really is, or close to it to you. But like Quake, people won't like that though, as there's a divide of players that would prefer it than not. I don't know. Love they nerfed Quake and Magic and Herc to just God tier. That's what he said. I wouldn't. Throwing Hercules into this conversation is kind of crazy. Maybe that's the good title. But that's what they're saying. And we have so many comments. So many comments. And then we finally have somewhat close to current comments on this thread. And it's been a lot of comments, mainly from some people going back and forth, because we know that debating on the forums always leads to positive change in the world. And we are now with the current present. So I wanted to cover that up. Shout out to my man Brian Shadow Strike for sending this to me in the first place. And go with a Kabam Mike comment. So let's see what's more to talk about. To be fair, I don't even agree with our point of view necessarily. I think that it would be much better for players to have a small adjustment made to Quake so that we can release her. But I have been through enough of these situations to know that my mental health is better off by not making any changes at this time. Wow. That's another bold statement to have Kabam Mike admit that this is hurting his mental health. I also feel like if you're a forum mode operator who tends to be passive aggressive and talk to people like they're ex-partners of yours, probably isn't good to do that at all for your mental health. All of that sounds like a really bad idea. This change is pretty small, but it would allow the game team to actually be able to counter Quake in certain content and allows players to start using her again. It just makes sense, but I made it clear to the team that unless we have a majority of players saying that they are open to a change, then Quake stays as a 5-star forever. I still can't believe that people are equating this with Hercules and almost angry that Hercules was released because 6 stars had to be a thing. I feel like that's kind of crazy. It seems real crazy to me. I mean, I know people want to put Hercules and Magic and Quake into the same category, but they just aren't. I don't even put Quake and Magic into the same problem. I still think Magic should be a 6-star. I get that people will say, well, her power gain is too OP, but Blade exists. Why do we not have more people still using Magic as a boss in Alliance? Because Blade nerfed her the right way with a counter to make Kabam money, but not directly nerf a champion. We have incredible 6 stars. We have incredible 7 stars. My 7-star Hulk is like unfairly broken, and I love every second of it and would never want him to be touched. But to have a 7-star Hulk completely legally in the game and then talk about how like a 6-star Magic or Quake would be too OP to me breaks my brain. And I know there are smarter people out there, people who are much better at the game, who say, actually, Prof, it shouldn't break your brain. Because if you were smarter, you'd know that a 6-star Ascended Magic or Quake is way more powerful than a 7-star Hulk. I just don't know if I buy that. You can argue it, and I will listen to your argument, and I will respect it, but I don't know if I buy it. Either way, let's not make this a 10-minute video. Let's end it here. Thanks for watching. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below on this. There's a lot of thoughts on this, and everybody seems to be split. So I expect about half the comments to disagree with the other half. And if that's the case, it's just like the forums.